Hi, my name is Kristin Morrison. I live in Oceanside, California, and I am a designer and artist who works with plants and natural materials to make clothing. All Species is a brand that I launched this past year, inspired by the book Cradle to Cradle. One of the quotes, which was written by philosopher and architect Bill McDonough, is how do we love all the species of all the children forever? So we're not caring just for our own human species, but we're thinking about all of the species on the planet and how we coexist and how we all affect one another. So a big philosophy that McDonough has come up with is this cradle to cradle theory that we need to design for with the end life cycle in mind. So in regards to my product, designing garments and textiles with their end life in mind. So the reason I've chosen to create All Species is so that we can have this conversation, really. It's about the textiles, it's about the garments, but more so it's just a big platform to spark conversation and to help educate people and invoke questions about the life cycle of product. I was inspired to use natural dyes, having come from a fashion background and having learned that the textile and dye processes are still the number one polluter of our watersheds on the planet. It's kind of mind-blowing to even think about that, but the runoff from the production processes are highly, highly toxic, and using plants to dye textiles is something on a small scale that can be controlled and can also like compost. So speaking of the cradle to cradle cycle, you have a plant, you use the whole plant, and then it goes back into the earth. So there's actually no waste. And as far as textiles, organic cotton obviously is an ideal fabric or an ideal fiber to be working with, but the biggest problem with it is that it takes so much water and so much land to grow. Hemp, on the other hand, is my absolute favorite fiber to work with for a million different reasons. It dyes up beautifully, but also from an environmental standpoint, it takes about half the land and water that cotton does to grow. It actually helps pull toxins from the soil. It pulls CO2 from the atmosphere. The plant itself has been used as a fiber source for ages, and a lot here in the US before like the mid-century. In fact, our American flag was woven with hemp. Like, how have we gotten away from that? It's super utilitarian, it's super strong. You can make paper with it. There's just a million different reasons that we should be growing hemp in the United States and cannabis in general. The basic process for extracting color from plants is as simple as making a tea. So taking fresh flowers, for example, like we'll do today, and throwing them in a pot of hot water, and you simmer them until you see color being extracted. So the extraction of the plant color is fairly straightforward. There is a process before to prep the fibers to accept color, and the steps in that are basically scouring, so really washing the fabric in hot water and stripping it of all of the industrial oils to prepare it for soaking. And then there's a mordanting process, which comes from a French word that means to bite the fabric, and for that I use different food grade mineral salts. And we soak the fibers in those, and it really opens up the fibers to then be put into the dye vat. I really like to grow the plants that I work with. So I've been working a lot with madder root, and the roots below the surface of the soil are this really beautiful, bright, like rusty red color, and they produce a whole range of reds, from like a rusty orange to like a beautiful pink color. Cochineal grows on our nopal cactus in this region a ton, also brilliant red color. We grow a perennial marigold in our garden. That's a really beautiful golden yellow. And I really like working with another flower called purple or black scabiosa, because no one really knows about it. And it produces an incredible like purpley gray color. Yeah, and of course indigo. I'm really inspired by utilitarian garments that endure ages and years, combined with interesting sort of avant-garde silhouettes. So I think those three components really sort of summarize like my design inspiration: utilitarian, avant-garde features, and timeless silhouettes. So taking, a classic high-waisted trouser and adding some extra flounce and bounce to the leg, combined with some interesting colorways. I really look to Japanese designers, like of course, Comme des Garçons and Yohei Yamamoto and Missoni. They have a soulfulness about their design that I really admire historically, and also like they definitely love to push boundaries as far as like draping and tailoring and drawing unique lines in their design features. It's such a privilege to be able to work in nature, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's really what my work is all about. It's what inspires me, and my work always hopes to illuminate the natural world. So using a marigold flower from my garden on a garment essentially highlights that plant to the world, in my opinion. And that's really where my inspiration stems from, is sort of demonstrating that we are all part of nature, and that we're not separate from it as humans. Like, we all live together on this planet, and we've been given all that we need. So we need to interact with nature in a way that not only takes respectfully, but also gives back. So if we're taking from this plant over here, then we definitely come back and give it some love and water, or a blessing, or a thank you, in the least. Being a mom has changed everything in the way that I work. I find my focus to be a little bit tighter and deeper in those moments that I do have to work. And also like finding creative ways to work with my son, or to like teach him and show him and get him involved in the making process. He's a major inspiration in all that I do, and just seeing the world through his eyes brings such fresh perspective and like appreciation for my work. The Ecology Center really is the backbone of all that we do. My husband started the Ecology Center now almost 10 years ago. And the philosophy behind the Ecology Center really is to find creative solutions for thriving on planet Earth. And so it's taking philosophy and principles from all sorts of worlds of study, so from permaculture to design. Those are major influences in what we do, and using design to create solutions. So the Ecology Center really is a living model and demonstration on how we can live better on this planet. And clearly, you know, it's woven through all parts of our lives, from our backyard garden to the way that we create and the way that we live on a day-to-day basis, you know, always striving to be an example, lighten our impact on the planet, and educate and inspire people who may not have the same background, and creating community too in a way that is naturally inspiring without us having to, without it feeling preachy. Gathering people together to create together inspires without having to say anything.